you say, well, the yes or no, what's my backstop there to make sure I'm really on track? Well, we got the Word of God, but you can twist it to say anything you want to say. So what's the rest of the story about this guarding your heart? Every one of the 12 tribes of Israel had a particular symbol and a particular colored gemstone that represented that tribe. So now, here's where your head's going to blow up. Y'all ready? There was a symbol for every tribe, and there was a gemstone for every tribe. You know what that was? Each one of those were the signs of the Zodiac. Now, the concept of the Zodiac as it is today is not what it was established for. Remember in Genesis, it tells you that God gave the stars for signs. Yeah. And the psalmist says that the heavens declare the glory of God. And we think that means you look up there and they're pretty, and so that's the glory of God. No, it said they declare. They send a message about who God really is. Now, God, after Adam left the garden, God taught Adam and Seth, his son that, after Cain killed Abel, and then also Enoch knew this. And you find the Hebrew names of the Zodiac in several places in the Bible. Now, the Zodiac starts with Virgo, and Virgo means virgin. And Virgo is the story of the prophecy that God gave in the garden that said a child will be born of a virgin. Mm-hmm. And so every one of the 12 signs of the Zodiac go through and they tell every single significant aspect of the fact that the Messiah was going to come. He was going to crush the head of the serpent. He was going to die. He was going to be raised from the dead. He was going to come back and establish a kingdom. Everything about from the garden all the way to heaven coming to earth was written in the stars. The amazing thing is, you go back to ancient Egypt, you go back to many ancient countries, and they knew this. They all knew that this is how the Messiah was going to come. They all knew this. See, when Abraham was going to be born, Nimrod, who was a Nephilim, Nimrod's stargazer saw a star that said a deliverer was coming. Now see, all of the wicked kings of the world knew that this story of the Messiah was written in the stars. So they were watching it not to welcome the Messiah, but to kill the Messiah. And so Nimrod was the first account that we have of them, through those stargazers, anticipating that a deliverer was coming. Well, they were afraid that it was going to be the Messiah. So Nimrod killed all the babies. And Abraham's father hid him in a cave from Nimrod. And Abraham was a deliverer, but he was not the Messiah. And so you have this happen throughout history, and they were always, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, the Sumerians, they were all watching the stars to try to anticipate when the Messiah was going to come so they could kill him before he could deliver human beings from the hands of Lucifer. Well, in the book of Daniel, Daniel is taken into captivity into Babylon. Daniel was put into the group with the stargazers. And so Daniel taught the stargazers how to actually read the signs from God's perspective. And so then the Babylonian stargazers passed that down from generation to generation. Let me show you just something really interesting. In the book of Daniel, Daniel prophesied that the Jews knew exactly what year Jesus was going to be born. Exactly. There was no question about it. Daniel even prophesied what year he would be crucified. None of this was new. None of this was news to people. Why do you think that Herod and all of them were so diligently watching the stars? Because they knew it was time. So the Babylonian stargazers, this was passed down from generation to generation, what they learned from Daniel. Now here's what Daniel taught them. Daniel taught them that when the Messiah comes, that in one of the particular Zodiac signs, a new star would emerge. And based on where that star emerged, you would know where in the earth, what area of the earth the Messiah was. So these stargazers, the three, what we call the three wise men, they were Babylonian stargazers. And they saw this new star emerge. By the way, the word zodiac is a Greek word that's derived from a Hebrew word which means the path. And it's the path that God is walking to take the human race from creation, fall, all the way to heaven on earth. And so it's all about the path, and being able to follow that path. Where are we in time? Where are we in history based on this path? They were wise enough not to divulge what they knew, so they set out from Babylon to find the Messiah. So, we read this story and it almost sounds like a star came down. It was about 20 feet off of the ground and they were following that star and it was guiding them. No, they were following the star because they knew based on the positioning of the star what direction to go in, but they didn't really know exactly. So they set out, and eventually, in following the star, they make it to Bethlehem. And when they get to Bethlehem, and this is the kind of stuff I love about God. I don't remember whether it was Jacob or Abraham, but there was a well that was dug by one of the patriarchs and dedicated to the Lord. And that became almost a holy place. And so they didn't know that they were at their location. They just stopped for the night. So when they stopped for the night and went to get water out of the well, they looked down in the well and they realized that star was directly above the well because they were seeing its reflection down in the well. So they knew they were at the location of the Messiah. So they go find him, and they realize that Herod is a wicked man who wants to kill him. So they go back another way, and they'll never tell Herod, what they found. So these messages in the stars, for example, Hercules is a part of the Zodiac. Hercules, which was later, and remember, the Egyptians, the Greeks, they all eventually twisted these into Luciferian things. But Hercules is actually in the stars is actually the story of Jesus being resurrected as this superpower that destroys the serpent.
My children! You have our permission to join them in death. All of you. Who are you? Are you a mercenary who turns his back on the innocent? Are you only the legend? Or are you the truth?
behind the legend.
No, Father, please.
We believe in you. We have faith in you. Have faith in yourself. Remember the man that you are. The deeds you have performed, the labors you have accomplished.
No! Stop it!
Now, tell me, who are you?
Unleash the wolves!
The gods have revealed the truth. The final labor is complete.
I needed to tell you that much of the Zodiac story. But now keep in mind, so for 2,500 years, from man being put on planet Earth to Mount Sinai, every nation in the world knew the gospel story. There wasn't a human being alive that did not know about the Zodiac and about God's plan. That's why God says nobody had an excuse. They all knew. Everybody knew. And so 2,500 years into it, then we get the written word. All of these signs of the Zodiac, they are placed on the high priest's vest in the proper order, in the proper sequence of how all these things play out. And each tribe of Israel really represents, and they would have the sign of the Zodiac, like the sign of Virgo. So when they would count, they would set up based on this pattern that was on the priest's vest. So you got this vest with 12 different color stones, and every one of these different color stones represent a different phase of the eternal story of God's redemption for man. And then right in the middle of that, right over your heart, you have this pocket with the Urim and the Thummim in it. So you realize that righteousness is one of those things that, the writer of Hebrews makes it clear. If you don't get yourself established in these foundational principles, you're never ready to deal with righteousness, because you will pervert it, you will twist it, you will make it say something it doesn't say, and you will end up destroying yourself. and so most of the people that preach about righteousness today know nothing about it. And most, the fake grace movement just convinces you, righteousness is just free gifts, so go sin all you want to because you're righteous. That nonsense. So you start realizing you might not be able to trust your heart if your heart is not established in righteousness. Where in Jeremiah, he says, King James says, the heart is desperately wicked above all things, and something else, and who can know it? Well, actually in the Hebrew, it says the heart is covered with footprints, therefore desperately chaotic. So now, if you don't get your heart healed and made whole, and this thing that we're doing today is going to be all about the process of coming into who you really are in Jesus. And when your heart is established in righteousness, then you can get the yes and no answer every time. And I'm telling you, you just won't miss. I'm telling you, you just won't miss. But here's the thing. So that I'm not deceived about my righteousness, if I am putting on the breastplate of righteousness, then I realize everything about my beliefs about God, about life, have to be established in these stories that each one of these gemstones represents. In other words, I've got to be immovable about the virgin birth. I've got to be immovable about Satan being crushed and that battle being won. I've got to be immovable about what Jesus got for me through the resurrection. In other words, this whole gospel story is written on the breastplate And I can't really trust myself with the Urim and the Thummim unless I am absolutely immovable in the whole gospel story. And Jesus himself is my righteousness, but that is my righteousness as far as truth, as far as information, as far as what I believe, being absolutely in harmony, with who God is and what God says about himself.